and with a record of 34-43, the Phoenix Suns last year did a bit better than their individual parts would let them say. With the additions of Devin Booker and Tyson Chandler and the losses of Gerald Green and, I'll put it with an asterisk, Marcus Morris because of something we'll bring up later, the Phoenix Suns, in our rankings, 10th overall, are missing the playoffs. Justin, do you think the additions of Tyson Chandler and I guess we'll say Booker are enough to make people still believe that they're a playoff contender? Or is this just a hot mess?
The roster that they have as of the date of this recording, I would say is probably a playoff team in the West. But as you mentioned, trading Marcus Morris seems to indicate that Markieff Morris is not going to play for them again. He's come out and said he's never going to play for the Suns again because they did trade his brother, which, as ridiculous as it is, seems to be the case. And with that turmoil around, I just don't think it's very likely that they're going to be able to make the playoffs. Markieff was so big for them, stretching the floor, providing tons of scoring. He's a tremendous player, and without him, given how competitive the West is, given Tyson Chandler's questionable history with health, I just don't see the stars aligning and putting the Suns in the playoffs this year.
No, I agree with you. And when I look at the Phoenix Suns, I think of some of their parts. I think it's this team of amazing glue guys. If they were able to just take this team and disband it into all the playoff teams, you'd fill in all those role players and those nice little niche guys. But my problem is, they traded away Dragic. They got Brandon Knight. Still have Eric Bledsoe. Two different but similar players. Yet Alex Len brought a contingency plan of Tyson Chandler. But it seems like putting all their money and effort into the 1 and 5, and you're still playing TJ Tucker. And I don't know, it's just like that whole situation to me, I just don't see enough talent to go there. I mean, they can play as well as they want, and to go on your point before with the Morris twins, I mean, we're talking, not only were they expecting to not trade, but they took less money because of that. I mean, had they gone to individual teams, I think, well, probably not Marcus. He probably got paid because of Markieff, but Markieff essentially took a little bit of a downplay. So he's going to be, I guess, a trade asset, you would have to say, or do you think his attitude is kind of playing him like a sour note to other teams because they don't want to deal with it? Because it's kind of a weird play for a guy just to be like, I got drafted with my brother. You traded my brother? I'm going to go pout in the corner and say, I don't want to play in the sandbox anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they didn't get drafted together, right? Marcus was drafted by the Rockets, and then they traded for him. Under normal circumstances, I would say Markieff has a lot of value. I think he still does, probably. But when you factor in the busted up leverage from saying that I'm never going to play a game for the Suns again, that's plus the fact that he's got a pending assault trial. Him and his brother are both on trial for assault. That's going to scare off a lot of teams and kind of lower his value around the league. I could still see a team like Toronto making a push for him. He's indicated that he wanted to play for Houston. So you're talking about two teams that do have quite a few assets, but I just don't know if it's going to be a meaningful return, at least in regards to wins this season.
No, absolutely. And, well, he's a stretch forward, can play some defense, and that it comes at a high premium in this league. And, hey, if he wants to go to Houston, maybe they can have another point guard who won't have enough time to play. Get Ty Lawson back in the deal. Then you can stack all these tiny little point guards with your giant lumbering centers and not much in between. Maybe I'm not the biggest fan of Houston. Phoenix. But, yeah, I mean, okay, so if we're talking to Phoenix fans out there and they're hopeful, where would you say that glimmer shines brightest?
Well, at this point, Phoenix is saying that they're not going to trade Morris. He does have 4 years on his contract, so in a lot of ways, he doesn't have a lot of leverage in this situation. We've seen players demand to be traded in the past or threaten to leave. I mean, even Kobe Bryant threatened to leave or asked to be traded. So you can resolve those type of issues. So I guess you would hope that Morris kind of comes together. I really, really do like the pickup of Brandon Knight. I think at this point he's already a better player than Goran Dragic. who is kind of on the downswing of his
Aren't
career.
those
And
too small though, him and Bledsoe? I mean, like I get it. I like both those players, but if one was 6'5", I think I'd
yeah, well, I mean,
talking.
Knight's about 6'3", 6'4", so most shooting guards in the league. So that tandem together, I do think can work. Obviously, they do need to work on the wings. I think Tyson Chandler is going to help them out a lot. But there's just too many holes for me, and I'm not too sure exactly how they go about filling them, because at this point they're too competitive to draft high, but they're not. I don't know if the foundation is there for a contender, which is always a tough spot for them to be in. But if you want to be an optimistic Suns fan, and you're not necessarily banking on success this year, I wouldn't really be surprised to see them move a guy like Bledsoe, who still has tons of value, build around Knight. Len's showing a lot of progress, so you can kind of look to build around those players. The Suns organization has shown, even though they haven't managed relationships with players too well, they don't stay down for long. I mean, this is a team that is consistently near the playoffs. They're always competitive, so you can at least have some faith that they'll be able to right the ship.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it here first. Justin Rowan saying that Phoenix is like Swiss cheese with all the holes, and let's hope that that hot Phoenix sun doesn't burn them to a crisp. So join us next time. Let us know your opinions. Are you a Phoenix Suns fan? Are you mentioning something that we missed? Leave it in the comments below. We'll be sure to get back to you and keep the conversation going here in the lounge.